Welcome to another episode. Actually, this is the Pitstop, actually. Of course, I am Mike Patton, the host of Tour of the AFC South, but this is kind of like the little pit stop. Not necessarily a full show, but hey, it's something of a show. This is also exclusively on YouTube. Nowhere else but on YouTube. So thank you all for tuning in to this episode. Of course, Pit Stop as well. I got a couple things I want to talk about, give you a few things and my thoughts on those, and then we're going to get on out, okay? Got it? Good. Okay, cool. So first thing we're going to talk about in this episode, of course, is the competition in Indy for Anthony Richardson. Yes, if you did not hear, GM Chris Ballard said that Anthony Richardson will have competition for the starting spot in Indianapolis this year. Now, to his credit, Anthony Richardson, through his agent, definitely understands that 2025 is a big season for him. I mean, he's going to his third year. He hasn't played an entire year. Just to give you a kind of rundown, 3 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, and 4 rushing touchdowns in his first year. Second year, played more games, 8 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and 6 rushing touchdowns as well. Also got benched and then put back in the starting lineup as well. So a lot is going to be on this young man to go out there and play well and kind of, show the progress and show that he's picking up the schemes better and, just overall to up his level of play. But we know what's not mentioned in this upping the level of play is Mr. Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen, it was great in his first year calling plays, and he had them playing well with Gardner Minshew at the backup quarterback, taking them almost to the edge of the playoffs, but barely missing it. And, I was thinking, okay, cool. You got Anthony Richardson coming back next year. You've got, all your pieces. You got Jonathan Taylor for a full season. For those who don't remember, he didn't play the entire season because, of course, he was, trying to get that new contract. So, hey, it happened, but it just didn't happen at the beginning of the year. So all those things, coming in handy. You're bringing back, Michael Pittman Jr. had a pretty good season. Well, a good season the previous year. You got young piece of wide receiver. People are thinking, hey, this team might be solid. They're bringing back all the pieces, bringing the band back together. Didn't work out that way. Everything that happened the first year didn't happen in the second year under Shane Steichen. And Shane Steichen wasn't necessarily his best calling plays for the entire season. So, it's definitely going to be interesting. It's kind of a mixture of, Anthony Richardson, still trying to grow and mature as a starting quarterback in the NFL, along with Shane Steichen not necessarily calling the greatest plays. Michael Pittman Jr. wasn't necessarily Michael Pittman Jr. the previous year or two. You had Josh Downs. He had moments, had injuries too. And AD Mitchell out there, he has ability, but he just didn't quite show up fully like they expected him to. And of course, the tight end position, a lot going on there as well. Too much for one show to even talk about. But of course, they've talked about, like I mentioned, this competition for Anthony Richardson. Now, you look at the different options out there, and there's not a ton of great options. Just look at the free agent quarterbacks that are out there. They're not. The highest rated one is Sam Darnold right now. Now, Sam Darnold, I honestly, do I think they bring in the Sam Darnold to compete with a guy that they pick top 5? No. I don't think they do that. If they did that, they may as well trade Anthony Richardson at this point, because I don't think they're going to if they were to sign Sam Darnold, they would not be signing him to a 1 or 2 year deal, in my opinion. They'd probably be signing him to a 3-year deal at least. So just to give you a heads up, they do have $35.2 million in cap space, and Sam Darnold is projected to get about $30 to $40 million next year. Excuse me, this offseason. So, if you calculate the numbers, kind of don't fit for them to pay him. And then, you still got to pay the rest of your roster in terms of, free agents and, your draft picks. So, I don't think money-wise that quite fits. So since that one's out, let me bring up one that actually might fit. and I know a lot of people will look at me a little sideways when I say this, Justin Fields. Justin Fields, yes, the guy that was playing in Pittsburgh last year. Now, if he's not in Pittsburgh, of course, they still have to make a decision at quarterback when it comes to Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Say he's not there next year. Look at the Indianapolis position. Now, they do want to have a quarterback that can move and run. I mean, Shane Steichen did the same thing. Jalen Hurts was trying to do some of the same things, I believe, with Anthony Richardson. Justin Fields is in that mode of being able to move and run and things like that. Does throw a pretty good deep ball. Now, people, say he holds onto the ball too much and things like that or whatever. And I totally understand that. But I think under the tutelage of a Mr. Shane Steichen, that he could make some things happen. I think he could actually be explosive in that offense and could be a guy that could, take his career to the next level, I would say. Unfortunately, that would mean the end of Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis as well. I know you're kind of probably sensing the theme here with what I'm saying, but, hold on. Let's go ahead and make it another way. Another option I got, and I will say this, if this guy beats out Anthony Richardson to start, then he could be traded at this point. That would be Jameis Winston. Now, Jameis Winston, I know he's an up and down quarterback. I know he's had a few things happen that have been great, and other things make you shake your head. And he's definitely a comedic genius when it comes to the things that he says into a microphone. Now, I would definitely enjoy that. Now, what I wouldn't enjoy if I was a Colts fan, if he's turning the ball over, throwing it right to defensive backs if he is to play. Now, he's had a Jekyll and Hyde career in terms of, maybe looking great some moments and other moments, he makes you scratch your head. So if that's being the case, if he is to beat out Anthony Richardson for, a certain quarterback position, if he is signed by the Colts, which, I'm not saying he is or isn't, but hey, you never know. It could be a possibility. But if he is, then you seriously have to evaluate Anthony Richardson and where you go next, because it would be his third year. More than likely 4 years would be it for him. You would probably be trading him. And of course, there is no 50-year guarantee. That would definitely not even happen at that point. So a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts with this decision of what competition they're going to bring in for Mr. Anthony Richardson. Boy, oh boy, buckle up tight, Colts fans. Some of y'all love this bringing competition. Some of y'all might be scratching your head with the competition they bring. We're going to see if it's a real competition or if it's just them talking to appease some fans that may be frustrated by the play of Anthony Richardson and just the Colts in general. We shall see. The other thing I want to talk about pretty quickly is I want to talk about Harold Landry, the the outside linebacker in the 3-4, by the way, for the Tennessee Titans. Now, he's coming off a pretty solid he's a pretty solid guy coming off the edge, but the Titans gave him permission to seek a trade. Now, I would say this doesn't mean that he wants to be traded. It could mean he wants to be traded, but either way it goes, the Titans have given him permission to seek a trade. He is a guy that's been solid for the Tennessee Titans. Of course, he did tear his ACL, a couple years ago, and he is kind of removed from that now. So he is, doing this thing out there. He had 9 sacks last year. Previous time he was out there, 10.5, and then 12. To me, looking at him, he is a guy that is a number 2. Now, I will say this. I look at Harold Landry. I don't look at Harold Landry as a number 1 outside pass rusher. I look at him as a very solid pass rusher, but just not a number 1 guy that's going to change the game like that. I think he is a prototypical number 2 pass rusher. Just the thing is, if you look at his salary, you're paying him like he's numero uno, $17.5 million the last year of his deal, by the way. So, with that being said, if you listen to the general manager for the Tennessee Titans, he actually stated about wanting to gather and garner more picks to rebuild this organization and I guess try to groom some people within the organization as well in terms of, developing and growing players. With trading Harold Landry, you could get another pick in doing that. Who knows if they trade him now before the draft for June 1st? You see, you would have 13.1 million in dead cap space and save 10.5 million against the cap. Just a thought. Now, June 1st, if you trade him post June 1st, you have $6.5 million hits in both 2025 and 2026 with 17.5 million in savings for next season. So, hey, either way it goes, you're going to lose some money, but you're also going to gain some money as well. So, definitely something to think about there. So, if you trade him post June 1st, hey, it seems a little bit more advantageous for this season for sure. So, open up those pocketbook and maybe bring in player here or player there, or maybe sign someone back that they have on their roster currently. But hey, that's just a few thoughts on what could potentially happen. So, here's another thought: the potential landing spots for Harold Landry. Now, there are a few that I've seen out there, and there are a few that I just shake my head at. Now, one is Arizona. I don't see why he would want to go to Arizona. Arizona, no offense to Arizona and their fans, they really have not really gone anywhere outside of the Kurt Warner days when Kurt Warner was a quarterback there. They really have not gone anywhere near the playoffs or deep in the playoffs. So if I'm Harold Landry going into the last year of my deal and I'm actually, trying to go somewhere where I can win, that place isn't it. So I would kind of scratch that place off of anything, in terms of trying to go there. Of course, he doesn't have a no trade clause, so it isn't like he can, do anything, but he is, seeking a trade. So who knows? They may give him permission to talk to all these teams and we'll see what happens. But here are my two picks for Harold Landry. One of those is the Washington Commanders. Now, the Washington Commanders do need a pass rusher on the outside. They do. Now, could Harold Landry be that? Of course, he would be going from a 3-4 outside linebacker to a 4-3 defensive end. It doesn't seem like a big change, but it can be a big change for a guy of that caliber. Just, from going from standing up to putting your hand in the ground at all times. So we'll see what happens, but that's a team that needs defensive playmakers. Now, if they view Harold Landry as a playmaker, of course, just remember, it's going to be he's going to the last year of his deal. So if it doesn't work out, of course, he's a free agent. But if it does, hey, he could prove he's that number one pass rusher on the outside and can be a number one for a team, trying to progress through the NFC like they did last year when the Commanders made it to the NFC Championship game. So, I mean, we could see that, we saw how many points the Philadelphia Eagles scored on them. We saw how defensively things just did not seem right in that game. Maybe Landry adds a little bit more to that defense. Maybe he helps them get over the hump. Maybe that's something they envision and see. And I will say the Washington Commanders do have some cap space. So, hey, you never know. It could potentially happen. Another place I'm going to take a look at is the Detroit Lions. Of course, everyone's like, oh, Detroit, how they got this, and this. Okay, Detroit does have cap space. So they do have 44.1 million in cap space. And one of their biggest things was they were trying to recreate a pass rush once Aiden Hutchinson went out for the season with a horrific leg injury. Don't watch that if you haven't watched it. But they were trying to recreate that, signing people off the street, everything. And just people kept getting injured and injury after injury after injury. And then eventually it caught up to them against the Commanders. With bringing Landry in, you're expecting Aiden Hutchinson to come back next season healthy and ready to go. You bring in Landry on the other side, it gives him a prototypical number two guy, younger than the Zadarius Smith that they brought in, and allows them to just maybe wreak havoc on quarterbacks. Definitely is going to help their secondary in terms of how long they have to hold up. So that would be also a team in the Lions that are trying to go win. and win it. That's different. They're in a different space than what the Tennessee Titans are. Not to say the Titans aren't trying to win or aren't trying to win. I'm just saying they're in a different space because the Lions are right there. They are one of the contenders in the NFC. So that would be a place to actually look at too. They do need a pass rusher. And another place to look at, New England Patriots. Now, New England Patriots do have the most cap space. I think they have about $128 million in cap space for this summer. That's a lot. That is a whole lot of money. And they could probably, take in Harold Landry. And if things work out, hey, maybe give him an extension. Also, you got to understand that his former head coach is there, Mr. Mike Vrabel. And who knows Harold Landry? Mike Vrabel. So, of course, they would be playing a 3-4 in New England, which Harold Landry is comfortable with. So that and then the money and then the potential to get an extension there as well and stay there. I mean, I don't know if he likes or hates cold weather, but I'm pretty sure he could tolerate it with money. So, with that being said, that is another option as well for him. But, of course, with this pick, and if Landry does get traded, of course, plenty of people have talked about how this could potentially affect the number 1 pick. Now, Harold Landry is their best outside pass rusher. And of course, he is making a big salary next year. But there's not no one knows the plan to replace him at all. No one knows that at all. I mean, it could be anything. It could be free agency. It could be the draft. Speaking about the draft, of course, Abdul Carter, they talked about stress fracture, recommending not having surgery. It was discovered during the medical test. So that's a shoulder and a stress fracture in his foot. So that's a little interesting. Do you want to take him as number 1? You have had guys that have been great defensive ends that have picked number 1, like a Myles Garrett, perhaps. But then you also, or number 1 by a team, basically, Miles. You have defensive end like a defensive ends like a Myles Garrett, and then you also have defensive ends that have been picked number 1 overall, like a Courtney Brown. Like just to put it in, I'll even put it in Penn State mode. The best, one of the best to come out that plays defensive end right now that was at Penn State, Micah Parsons. Then you flip it over to now way back machine, and then you talk about Courtney Brown. So you could get great or you could get bad. Hey, it is what it is. But if you feel he's the best player, you go ahead and take him and you add him to that pass rush. That makes your hold back into your defense even better as well, because they don't have to hold up quite as long. But then it doesn't answer the position that you need as a quarterback. And you notice one quarterback or a few quarterbacks made a whole bunch of difference last year when they were drafted by their teams. Look at Mr. Jaden Daniels. Took them from not even sniffing the playoffs to the NFC Championship game. Look at Bo Nix. Took them from looking a mess as an organization in Denver to making the playoffs. A quarterback can make that much of a difference. Now, of course, you do need other pieces around that quarterback, but that's just a thought right there. To me, I believe they're at about 51 million in cap space. The Titans are. You could add another pick with the trade, like I mentioned earlier, and then also, the number 1 pick. Which, to be honest, over franchise quarterbacks, they tried with Jake Locker. They tried with Marcus Mariota. Ryan Tannehill stepped in for a little bit. They tried Vince Young, even going even further back. The only franchise quarterback that, I can remember with the Titans that they actually groomed and they made it to the quarterback, Steve McNair. Other than that, you can't really name a quarterback that they really groomed, made the quarterback, and it actually worked out. So, this is very important for the Titans. This pick is, and do I think they take a quarterback? Yes. Do I know which quarterback? No. Do I know if they trade the pick? No, again. No one knows what they're going to do, but we'll see what happens. Definitely is going to be intriguing to watch what happens with, of course, like I'm going to mention, the competition with Anthony Richardson, and also with Harold Landry and a potential trade. I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Pit Stop. But hey, wheels are, closing the doors. We're getting the RV back on the road. We're going to make another pit stop real soon. I don't know where it could be. You just got to tune in to watch and see where we end up and what we talk about next. Thank you all for tuning in. We're out. Peace.